Greetings everyone, I'm Kevin. Let's talk about Eurovisionathon. So Eurovisionathon is a readathon based on Eurovision Song Contest, and this readathon lasts between the 24th of April until the 22nd of May. And if you didn't know, Eurovision Song Contest is a singing competition, or rather a song competition in Europe, and it also includes countries not from Europe. And this song contest started off after the world wars as a way to keep the peace in Europe, and I think that's kind of a fun thing how it started off, especially since I don't remember if it's in World War I or World War II, but during Christmas time there was a ceasefire and people started singing Silent Night in their own language, and that kind of was a peaceful thing. And then after that the war continued. That Europe would come together for this Eurovision Song Contest as a way to kind of have a peaceful competition where we all come together for songs. And this has been going for a rather long time. I think in 2020, the fact that Eurovision Song Contest did not happen in 2020 due to COVID, I think that's the first time ever that Eurovision Song Contest didn't happen. At least I think so. Anyways, with Eurovisionathon, the prompts are the countries that are participating. So we have 40 countries participating, and it's all of these. So you can see there are a lot. I will also link the announcement video down below so you can check out Helen's channel, because Helen is the one who is running the readathon. I should have mentioned that earlier. I'm so sorry, Helen. But it's Helen from Helen's Bookhaven. I will also link her booktube channel down below, as well as her Twitter and the readathon specific Twitter. So you can check all of that down below, as always. As you can see with all the countries, you can read a book per country. You can read 10 books for one country, it doesn't matter. But every book that you read for a specific country, you will give that country a point. So let's say if I would read 5 books for Sweden, I would give Sweden 5 points, but those points wouldn't matter if Sweden won't get to the finals. So it would be a little bit kind of safe to pick from the big 5, and those 5 countries are Germany, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Spain. And other than those, the former victory country, that sounds so weird. I don't know the right term to use, but the country that was winning, the host country. The host country is automatically qualified for the finals because they were the country that won the most recent Eurovision. In 2019, the Netherlands won, and so the Netherlands will host. They would have hosted in 2020, but that we skipped that one. So in 2021, the Netherlands are still hosting Eurovision Song Contest, and because they are the host country and because they won the most recent Eurovision Song Contest, they are automatically qualified. It's a little bit weird for a host country to not even have, the big final, and their representative is not even performing. So those are the 6 countries that are automatically performing on the final. So if you're a little bit sneaky, you can, read from one of those 6 countries, because that way that this country will get a point. But anyways, that's just so that you get kind of the gist of it. But now I'm going to go through the countries that I will be reading for, and I am just reading 1 book per country. I'm not reading a book for every single country of the 40 countries participating. I am reading for 6. And I'm going to tell you a little bit first about why I chose the way I did. To get into the mood of Eurovision, I listened to my entire playlist of my Eurovision Song Contest favorite songs, and I got into one of my absolute favorite songs from Eurovision Song Contest of all time. I have a top 7 that are just exclusively the top 7. They are never removed from top 7. They are always in the top 7. And one of those top 7 songs is Golden Boy by Nada Guedi for Israel. And I listened to this song. It's amazing. I absolutely love that song. I can listen to it on repeat, which I have countless times. So while listening to that song and singing along, I got this idea to read a book that has the same kind of feel to it as the favorite song that I have for that country. So in Golden Boy, in the chorus, he sings, "And before I leave, let me show you Tel Aviv." And that just got me thinking, hey, maybe I can read a book about someone showing me Tel Aviv. Maybe I can read a book set in Tel Aviv for Israel. And that just got me like, wow, yes, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna look into it and stuff like that. So that is basically how I picked every single of these 6 books. I made a complete spreadsheet. I wrote down every single country participating this year, and then I went through my favorites Eurovision Song Contest list, and I wrote those in for the country and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a book for every single of my favorite songs, so honorary mentions, Kedvesem for Hungary. Hungary is not participating this year, which is so sad, because Hungary is always bringing like good songs, in my opinion. And the second of my top 7 favorites that I could not find a book for is De la Capat by Voltaï. And De la Capat by Voltaï is such a gem, and I learned Romanian for that song. I learned Romanian pronunciation. I went through a whole debacle with Romanian just so I could pronounce the words of the song. I still don't understand Romanian, but I did my best, and now I can actually sing the song without sounding like someone who absolutely has no idea what they're doing. But I couldn't find a book for De la Capat either, so. But Romania is participating, so I hope I'm getting a new gem from them this year. And then before I go into the list, I just wanted to also say that in Eurovision Song Contest, there is this rule to not vote for your own country, or rather, don't vote for the country that you are currently in. So as I am currently in Sweden, I am not allowed to vote for Sweden in the Eurovision Song Contest. I don't remember if Helen said anything about that in the announcement video, but because of the Eurovision Song Contest rule, I decided that, okay, I'm not gonna read Swedish literature because that feels a little bit like cheating, because as someone who lives in Sweden, it's extremely easy for me to just go to a library, pick up a lot of books set in Sweden about Sweden and things like that, and whoopsie daisy, we have 20 points for Sweden, So I decided I'm not gonna read for Sweden, so all these 6 books are not Sweden. But that is it for the background, or whatever you want to call it. So let's get into the books. I'm going to go through all the countries in alphabetical order, as I always do everything alphabetically, so there's not a kind of oh, this is the one I'm most excited for or whatever. It's just alphabetically, so no ranking whatsoever. And the first country is Cyprus, and my favorite song that I chose for Cyprus is One Thing I Should Have Done by John Karagiannis. And this is such a beautiful song, and in it he sings, there's one thing I should have done, I should have been there for you. And the book that I chose for this is Small Wars by Sadie Jones. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the book and why I felt like it fit the whole one thing I should have done, I should have been there for you. So I'm just going to read to you what it says in the synopsis for Small Wars. So it says, set on the colonial war-torn island of Cyprus in 1956, Sadie Jones tells the story of a young soldier, Hal Treherne, and the effects of the small war on him, his wife Clara, and their family. Hal is a dedicated soldier on the brink of a brilliant career. He is eager to lead his men into combat. Clara, however, is relieved when they are posted instead to seemingly peaceful sun-kissed Cyprus, but war erupts over unification with Greece. The island is consumed by violence, and Hal discovers that his military training cannot help him navigate the minefields of moral compromise that lie beneath every battle he fights. Clara grows fearful of her increasingly distant husband. When she needs him most, she finds the once tender Hal a changed man, a betrayal that is only part of the shocking personal crisis to come. And that's kind of why I felt like there's one thing I should have done, I should have been there for you, fit this book very, very well, because the distant husband that he became someone else, who became changed because of the war, and the whole thing that Clara grows fearful of her increasingly distant husband. When she needs him most, she finds the once tender Hal a changed man. So because of those lines, I felt like this fit the song very, very well. And so this is the book I'm going to read for Cyprus. Then we move on to the second country, which is Germany. Because as I said earlier about Sweden, I'm not allowed to read for Sweden. Or I might be. I don't remember if Helen brought that up. But with the rules of Eurovision Song Contest, I decided I'm not going to read for Sweden. And as someone who has 2 countries, I am Swedish and German, I am allowed to read for Germany. Yay! Which is a loophole that I use every so often. For Germany, my absolute favorite song from Germany, like I love Satellite. Satellite is a blast. It's a beautiful song. But the song that I really love is Walk Alone by Michel Schulte, and that's the song that I chose for this one. And Walk Alone is about a broken family. It's kind of like autobiographical. It's kind of autobiographical. I don't know if that's the word, but it's kind of like an autobiography, but in a song form for Michel, because I think his dad is dead or just absent, but he doesn't have a relationship to his dad, either because the dad is an absent father or because he is dead. I don't remember which it is. I just know he doesn't have a father. So the song Walk Alone is kind of like a song to his father, because like, you will never know because you let me walk this road alone. And the whole song is about having like family and everything that you go through in life, but this parent will never know because they were not there. And I relate to that because I have been open about my relationship with my parents, that it's currently non-existent, but I really relate to Walk Alone because of that. And so for the book that has similar vibes to Walk Alone, I chose Einfach so weg by Aise Bosse and Andreas Klamt. And this is kind of like a multimedia book. It is over 150 pages, which was one of the only kind of rules to the books, that they have to be at least 150 pages long. This is a multimedia kind of thing. It has stories, it has poetry, it has advice, it has a lot of things. And this book is kind of created to help people with grief. That if you go through any kind of abandonment, no matter if it's someone who is alive, who is, who left you, or if it's abandonment because someone died, like that doesn't matter. It's grief because of those things regardless. And like all of those things, like with the grief part, I felt like this really fit the song very well, because the whole song is very sad, and it does deal with grief and what it's like to be left and stuff like that. So I really felt like this book fit the song. So I'm going to read Einfach so weg for Germany. And now we're moving on to Israel, because you know which song I'm going to talk about, and it is Golden Boy. And as I said earlier in this video, this is the song that kind of jumpstarted this whole idea for me to match a favorite song from the country to a book for Eurovisionathon. So with Golden Boy, as I said earlier, the whole thing like, and before I leave, let me show you Tel Aviv. That's the idea that I went with for this book. And the book that I chose is The Lady from Tel Aviv by Rabbi Almadun. And with that whole thing, like just that part, and before I leave, let me show you Tel Aviv. The book that I chose, as I said, is The Lady from Tel Aviv, but to kind of clarify why I chose this book. So I'm just going to read the synopsis for you. Walid Dachman is going home, returning to Gaza after nearly 4 decades in exile. He looks forward to embracing his mother and reconnecting with the people and places once left behind. Boarding the flight from London, Walid's life intersects with that of Dana, an Israeli actress, on her way back to Tel Aviv. As the night sky hurtles past, what each confides and conceals will expose the chasm between them in the land they both call home. I just felt like the whole part about the place that they both call home, but the fact that this is about a woman from Tel Aviv, and that they are kind of like, she doesn't show him Tel Aviv per se, but what I really like connected from this book and the synopses to and Before I Leave, Let Me Show You Tel Aviv, is the fact that we have an Israeli woman from Tel Aviv and a Palestinian man who is on his way to Gaza, to home. Is that it kind of shows this, like, not Let Me Show You Tel Aviv per se, but that it's one person who is Israeli and from Tel Aviv and one person who is Palestinian and from Gaza, that we are following the Palestinians' perspective. From what I understand from the book, from the synopsis. I have not read the book yet. I haven't received the book yet. That's why you're getting the pictures and things like that. But I just felt like to have one person who is from Tel Aviv and who is Israeli, I feel like that gives the whole thing, like, and before I leave, let me show you Tel Aviv. Even though they might not be in Tel Aviv, I don't know, but to have them, as it said, like, in the same place that they both call home and stuff like that. I don't know, like, it's hard to explain, but I really connected the song to this book, and I'm really excited to read this book. I always find it very interesting to read books from perspectives that are so different from my own. And this may sound very strange to a lot of people, but that's a reason why I read a lot of American literature, because I have no idea what it's like to actually be in the US, and everything that I know about the US is from media, which is not the best thing. And when I say media, I don't include books. I mean like the news, newspapers, everything like that, what people are saying on TV from the Swedish perspective about the US. So the only way for me to get like an insider perspective is either watch movies about the US by Americans or read books about the US by Americans. So I always, like, I prefer reading books from perspectives that are different from my own, that are set in places that are not like what I'm used to. And this is an example of that. But enough about Israel in this book. Let's move on to the next country. So then we're moving on to Malta. My favorite song from Malta is Tomorrow by Gianluca Bezzina. And the book that I chose to go with it is Summer on a Sunny Island by Sue Moorcroft. And how the song connects to the book, I'm going to go into in a little bit. I'm just going to read the synopsis to you first. This summer, sparks are flying on the island of Malta. When Rosa Hammond splits up from her partner Marcus, her mum Dory suggests a summer in Malta. Not one to sit back and watch her daughter be unhappy, Dory introduces Rosa to Zach, in the hope that romance will bloom under the summer sun. But Rosa's determined not to be swayed by a handsome man. She's in Malta to work, after all. Zach, meanwhile, is a magnet for trouble and is dealing with a fair few problems of his own. Neither Rosa nor Zach are ready for love. But does fate have other ideas? And after a summer in paradise, will Rosa ever want to leave? So the reason I felt like this book and the synopsis fit the song Tomorrow very well is the fact that in the song Tomorrow is kind of like a story, and it's this guy who is pining for this girl, but the girl is always one day away and she just wants to play and things like that. And even though there is no pining evident in the synopsis, at least, the whole part that she doesn't want to get swept into a romance, she just wants to work, after all, like that line. So that's what I kind of connected to it. And maybe fate has other plans, like tomorrow, the future, you know. But that's kind of how I connected the two. I know it sounds a little bit like, you know, but it's good enough for me, at least. And then we're moving on to my Scandinavian Nordic neighbor, Norway. And I actually have a fair few favorite songs for Norway. But the one that I chose that I really have so much higher up than all the other ones is Silent Storm by Carl Espen. And this is such a sad song. But the book that I chose to go with it is Vigdis Hjort's Arv och Miljö. So Arv och Miljö is a book about Bergljot and how she's struggling with family after her dad sexually assaulted her. So trigger warning for that. It's never, from what I know, I have only tagged it. I have never finished the book, but I have gotten quite far into it. But the book, from what I know, from what I understand from other people, is that it's never explicit. Those assault scenes are never explicit in the book. We're just told about them, but we never have to go through the scenes with Beirut. And the book is in first person perspective, and it deals a little bit like with Walk Alone from Germany, like Michael Schulte's Walk Alone. This book has to do with a broken family. Like Beirut stands in her truth, like this happened to me, that this is what dad did to me, and everyone else is kind of like gaslighting her. And as she lost her biological family, she's kind of like looking for somewhere that she belongs. And the title Arbor Miljö, it has to do with the fact that the dad dies and the three daughters kind of inherit. The English title for this book is Will and Testament. It deals with like the aftermath of the dad's will, which daughters inherit what, kind of like that, and Beirut is left kind of like on the sidelines in her own family because she stands up for herself. So now, giving you that little background, I'm going to read a few lines from the chorus of Silent Storm because it's a lot clearer than if I would attempt to explain. So the chorus of Silent Storm is: I'm here to use my heart and my hands. Somehow the bruises changed my plans. And there's a silent storm inside me, looking for a home. I hope that someone's gonna find me and say that I belong. I'll wait forever and a lifetime to find I'm not alone. There's a silent storm inside me. Someday I'll be calm. And that is such a beautiful thing. Like, those lines are so beautiful, and I completely relate. Like, just looking for a home. I hope that someone's gonna find me and say that I belong. And I'll wait forever and a lifetime to find I'm not alone. Those are just so powerful lines, and I completely relate. I am also looking for a home, and everyone needs to feel like they belong. And it's especially difficult when you don't have your family on your side, or you don't have a relationship to your family because of any reason, really. And that's kind of like what Beirut is going through. Like she there's this silent storm inside of me that has to do, like the silent storm inside her in Beirut, like dealing with what her dad did to her, and the fact that no one stands up to her or stands with her to try and understand her perspective and what she's going through. Everyone just takes dad's perspective because he's dad, you know? And that she's looking for a home, and that she hopes that someone's gonna find her and tell her, you belong. And that is something that is very difficult when you come from a toxic family or you have toxic parents, because it's very easy for everyone else in the family to take their side over yours. And like, I would be over the moon if anyone in my family would tell me, like, you're still part of this family, like, you still belong in this family. But no one has done that, and it's been 2 years. So I completely relate to Beirut and the song. And I should have said also, Vigdis Hjort is Norwegian. Beirut, this story is set in Norway. I just have it in Swedish, but the title is the same in Swedish and Norwegian. But in Norwegian you have the Norwegian character for the The original looks like this, but it's the same. As you can see, it's extremely similar. It just is different in Norway. But yeah, this will be such a difficult book to read, but I feel like it definitely fits the song very, very well. And so this is what I'm reading for Norway. So we're on to the sixth country, which is Ukraine. And maybe if you're a Eurovision Song Contest buff like me, you might know which song I'm going to read for. And it is 1944 by Jamala. And I saw this live. 2016 Eurovision Song Contest was hosted by Sweden. It was in Stockholm, and I was there. So I watched Jamala perform live, and it was very, very beautiful to experience all of those songs. Like, there were so many great songs that year, and to experience that live was absolutely brilliant. And as you probably know if you've heard this song, and also from the title 1944, the song has to do with war. And there is some kind of speculation that this song is also about what happened on Krim in 2014 when Putin decided that, hey, I don't care about Winter Olympics that we're hosting in Sochi. Let's invade Ukraine. I still don't understand that. That is just, what? But there is some speculation that this song has to do with what happened on him as well, which I think is absolutely fair. But the song has to do with war, as I said. And so for this song and for this country, I'm going to read The House with the Stained Glass Window by Jana Zloniewska. So from what I understand from reading about this book, it follows generations from the Russian invasion in 1930 up until the Ukrainian Revolution in 2014, which is what I talked about a little bit earlier that had to do with the invasion of Krim. So this follows that entire history between the 1930s and until 2014. So as it deals with the Russian invasion and more like the other issues that happened to Ukraine between the 1930s and 2014, I felt like it really fit the song. So if you're familiar with the song 1944, you will understand why I felt like The House with the Stained Glass Window fit very well. And now we're up to the absolute last book of the list, the absolute last country, and it is the United Kingdom. And I can be honest and say I did not have a lot of favorite songs from the United Kingdom. But the song that I decided that I enjoyed the most from the United Kingdom is You're Not Alone by Joe and Jake. And it's a book that is very positive, and it's very you're not alone, as the title says, telling everyone that you're not alone, we're in this together, and all of that. And the book that I chose to go with the song, that is a book by an English author. It is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And if you saw my Yet TBR's video for April, you will see that linked up there. I chose this book for good mental health representation. And this is a book that I have heard a lot of great things about, with the fact that it's a very hopeful book, and that a lot of people, or the majority of the people that I have heard from and read reviews from and things like that, have said that The Midnight Library is a very optimistic book that will leave you hopeful and will leave you feeling good. It will make you feel more positive reading it than you did before picking it up. So I felt like this fit You're Not Alone very, very well. And this book also has to do with this Midnight Library, which is kind of like the bridge between life and death. So before you die, you spend some time in the Midnight Library, and there are infinite lives. So you can open a book and see, how would my life have been if I made this choice instead of the choice I actually made? And you get to live your life over and over depending on what choice would you have made. If I didn't make this choice, how would my life have been? And all of that. So it has infinite possibilities and infinite lives, as it says right there. So I will be reading this book for the United Kingdom. So there you have it. The 7 countries I will be reading for Eurovisionathon. And as always, I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like if you did. And until next time, good reading. Bye!